Okay, guys, this video is going to go through Denis McQuail's genre theory, which can also be called genre expectations. So, first of all, going for our quote. As I say, find a quote that you feel is suitable for your analysis. But one that I find is pretty multi-purpose is the genre may be considered as a practical device for helping any mass medium to produce consistently and efficiently, and to relate its production to the expectations of its customers. That's quite long-winded and quite verbose, but what McQuail is essentially saying that genre is useful because it gives us a pre-packaged understanding for the audience. So if an audience member goes to watch a horror movie, they know what conventions to expect. As in, if you go and buy a ticket to go to the cinema to see a horror movie, you know roughly what's going to happen. Obviously, you don't know the exact narrative, you know the sort of things that should occur. What he's essentially saying, to really summarise it, is that genre makes producing media texts easier, as it's viewed as a rule book to produce a product the audience will accept. And this is very true as horror as a medium. A famous director that I forget the name of now once said that if you want to make some money in the movie industry, all you need to do is release a horror movie at Halloween. And what he's saying there is effectively that horror is really easy to get across to the audience and to get sales. You just need to release it at the right time. And that's kind of backing up Denis McQuail's belief. So it's about that rule book that media producers need to follow to create something that audience will accept. Carrying on with the horror example, let's look at it. What do we expect from a horror film? We expect blood and gore, death, jump scares, a monster or a villain, a hero, probably a love interest as well. And if we look at random one that I've chosen, it has all of those things if you've seen that film. And it's also important to note that this poster very clearly relays the expectation of horror, of the genre of horror to us. If someone sees this poster in the MTR on their way out to the cinema, they know what they're going to get when they get to that cinema. Which brings us on to another part, which is what's known as the audience contract. The audience contract is essentially a handy way to referring to this set of pre-packaged expectations that we attach to a genre. Breaking this contract can result in audience dissatisfaction, as they haven't gained what they wanted from that particular media text. So a perfect example is this film here. Wow, Adobe's being annoying. There we go. Is this film here, which is Blade Runner 2049. I thoroughly recommend it, but you need to watch the original first. But Blade Runner 2049 was a financial failure at the box office. The reason for this is not because it was a bad film. The reason why is because the trailers in particular for the film and the iconography on this poster here very much sold it as an action sci-fi film. So the audience contract that was drawn up with the audience was that we would expect from an action sci-fi film. So things such as gunfights, explosions, car chases in flying cars, and cool sci-fi scenes like that. And even the poster there, one of the most standout items there is the two guns, which are very, very visible. So, as a result of drawing up that audience contract of it being a sci-fi action movie, a large number of people who enjoy sci-fi action movies went to see it. Unfortunately, they called that slightly wrong because Blade Runner 2049, while I think it's a wonderful film, is not an action sci-fi film. It's actually a philosophical sci-fi film. It's very slow-paced. It has a lot of kind of mulling over the idea of what is humanity and where are we heading as a species and things like that. And it had very little action. In fact, the film was about 3 hours long. I would say about 10 minutes of that had action scenes. So the audience contract was effectively broken. The audience contract created by the trailer was not fulfilled by the film. With that said, knowing what this film was, because I'd seen the original, for me, I knew it would be a philosophical sci-fi film, and as a result, for me, the audience contract was very much fulfilled, and I loved it. But because the promotion got the wrong people into the cinema and drew up the wrong contract with people before they sat down, the film was actually a box office failure, despite critical success and being, in my opinion, a damn good film. So that's the audience contract, effectively telling the audience what to expect and what they will expect from a product. You can subvert genre expectations deliberately, though. So some directors, particularly Quentin Tarantino, enjoy breaking genre expectations. And if this is done really well and carefully and cleverly, it can create appeal in your media text because it will effectively be quite exciting. If you sit down expecting one thing and you get something else, but you really enjoyed it, then that can actually make that a much more memorable and unique film. As I say, Tarantino does this a lot. Here's one film. He actually stars in it, or co-stars in it. There he is there. He didn't direct this one, but he did write the screenplay for it. And this film, I'm sorry for spoilers, but this film, From Dusk Till Dawn, it starts as a heist movie. George Clooney, who's looking particularly dreamy there, and Tarantino are on the run after a bank heist, and they've taken a couple of hostages. And the film plays out and fulfills the genre expectations of a bank heist throughout. Even the trailers released in cinemas and on TV portrayed it as a bank heist film. However, about halfway through the film, there's a sudden and unexpected genre twist where it instantly switches to becoming a very generic horror film. As it was done so effectively and so suddenly and so surprisingly, and because all of the marketing was very cleverly tied into this genre surprise, this subversion of the genre expectation, the film was very, very successful. It was really good fun and really surprising. And he does that a lot in a lot of his films. So, for example, Django Unchained, the soundtrack is entirely modern hip-hop music, which you wouldn't normally expect from a Western film. And then you've got films like Inglourious Basterds and his most recent one, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, where he actually quite literally changes history in his films to surprise the audience. So just because McQuail says genre creates a set of pre-packaged expectations for audiences doesn't mean that you have to follow them necessarily. If a director or a writer or a media producer is feeling brave, they may break them deliberately to create something a bit more unique. So how do you actually apply this theory? It's really simple. You look at the media text you're addressing and you say, is this following the expectations I'd have of the genre that it is, or is it subverting them? If it does follow these expectations, why do you think that is? And do you think it's been done very well? And if it does subvert them, do you think this is a deliberate subversion? And if so, why do you think they've deliberately subverted genre expectations? So a really simple theory to get your head around, but the applications of it are very vast, and you can really go into a great deal of detail with this one. So it's a good theory for talking about genre.